Welcome. You likely joined the webinar today to get insight and answers on whether or not to open an AFC of your own, or you've started the process and want to make sure that you're on track. Whether your motivation is a passion to care for those who can't live independently, you're looking for a stable business opportunity, you're tired of working for someone else, or you already own a facility and desire to open more, by the time we're done, you will learn the pathway to opening an AFC in Michigan. You will learn what support is available from our organization and hear a testimony from someone who successfully used the support we provide to get licensed. You're also going to learn some secrets that will make the process easier for you. My name is Nadine Carlson, co-founder and consultant with Care Provider Solutions. And we know that winging it doesn't work, but systems do. We know how hard it is to start and run an AFC business and still run a household. It can feel overwhelming when good systems are not in place and sometimes even confusing. Well, what we do is save wasted time and money by teaching simple processes to run an AFC successfully. And that includes our topic of today, opening a licensed AFC in Michigan. So let's get started with clearing up some confusion. What exactly is an AFC? Because many terms can be used. Adult foster care, residential assisted living, RAL, assisted living, ALF, all mean the same thing. Some might serve a different population. In Michigan, they're often in a residential neighborhood. It's a facility where room and board, care services, and supervision are provided 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for 3 to 20 adults and seniors with limitations such as traumatic brain injury, intellectual, mental disabilities, physical disabilities, Alzheimer's, or the aged. Staff helps with daily needs such as medication management, personal care, supervision, and providing enriching activities. Now, you may wonder, how would you be making a difference by entering this industry? Well, that's a good question. Number one, you would provide a stable community-based alternative to institutionalized care. You would support adults who can't live independently and offer individualized care in smaller home-like environments, to name a few. Now, what an AFC is not is an SUD. That stands for Substance Abuse Disorder Facility, and it is not a facility for those who are under the age of 18. Now that you understand the definition of an AFC in Michigan, let's continue with the required qualifications. Step 1 of our pathway to opening an AFC. For those of you who have long-standing experience, great. Some of you may not. That is where I fell in 2010. I was invited to enter the adult foster care business and had business owner experience, but not caregiving experience outside of my family. So whether you have experience in the industry or not, someone will need to be named as the licensee and/or administrator to oversee the success of the operation. Those requirements include 1 year experience with the population served. Now, in my case, since I didn't have that year experience, then we named a person that did, and she functioned as the licensee and administrator. You can choose one person to function as both roles or two people, one for each role. For those who do have the experience, then you would just name yourself. Now, that person or persons will also need to provide a proof of a high school diploma or GED, a clear criminal background check, a medical clearance, management or supervisory experience or education. Why do you ask on that? Well, Lara desires to have facilities stay open long term so the residents inside there are not displaced. So a resume that shows your management experience, business ownership experience, or courses that show you have those skills would meet that requirement. And then lastly, you have to show proof of education. Fortunately, Lara has easy to follow links to meet many of the requirements. Now we're ready to move to step 2 into budgeting and funding. A good business person knows after determining whether the business opportunity is a good personal fit, it is necessary to determine if there's a market demand and it is sustainable financially. And the same applies to the AFC industry. You may wonder, is this a business worth pursuing? And can I make enough money to pay overhead, pay staff, pay yourself, and make a profit? Well, let's start with the demand. A recent IHPI poll shows 41% of adults aged 50 and older in Michigan think it is likely they will need long-term care in the future. So let's do the math. Currently, there's about 3.4 million in Michigan over the age of 50. So 41% of that is about 1.25 million that are 50 or older that will need support. That's a big number. Well, let's contrast that against a different population that you might want to serve, the mentally ill and developmentally disabled. A Michigan Community of Mental Health Service Provider survey shows that services are delivered to 300,000 children and adults with the most severe and persistent mental health illnesses, substance abuse disorders, and developmental disabilities. This report indicates a substantial need for supportive residential settings such as AFC homes. Now, what is the income potential? Now that we've established that there's a demand. Well, income on average runs about $3,000 to $10,000 per month or higher per resident for one that does not require one-on-one care. In specialized cases where there's extreme medical or behavioral or memory care requiring one-to-one staff, some of the people we have worked with receive much more than that per person per month. So you might wonder, where do these funds come from to cover the expenses of the care that you're providing? Well, depending on your focus, there's a few different places. Long-term care insurance, private pay, which means they're paying out of pocket for their room and board and care, waiver organizations such as Area Agency on Aging and PACE, Community of Mental Health agencies, aid in attendance through VA, or auto insurance are some of them. Do you need to live in the state to start the licensing process? No, you do not. Now, let's contrast the income potential with the startup costs to get the business going. Your startup budget needs to include home modification upgrades. So if you're using an existing home, most often those things are non-lock against egress doorknobs, handrails, integrated smoke detectors, furnace room doors, home furnishings, those types of things. Now, major renovations like ramps and bathrooms will require more expenses. That is assuming a 6-bed or under. If you desire to open a home for 7 or more individuals, you will also have to budget for zoning approval, sealed architectural plans, smoke alarms, and a panel and sprinkler installation. A minimum of 2 to 3 months of funds should be accessible to use if necessary to cover the overhead while you wait to get licensed and fill beds. So what does that mean? We're seeing right now a budget for a 6-bed home is landing somewhere between $25,000 and $30,000 per month of overhead expenses to run the business, including payroll, what you pay yourself, and some profit. The state will want to see at least double of that, 2 to 3 months. So 20 at 25,000, you're looking $50,000 proof of funds in cash, equity line of credit, assets that can be sold, and or income through other sources, such as a job or private investors. Now, if those numbers make you sick to your stomach and you wonder where are you going to get the money, there are a few options that you can consider. You could do it the old-fashioned way and save until you have enough. You could rent a property versus buying one. You could create a business plan to secure investors, an SBA loan, or a home equity line of credit, to name a few. How do you secure the investors or a loan? Well, there's a QR code on the screen. I'd like you to scan that right now and enter in your information, and I'll tell you a little bit about that in a second. So, how do you secure an investor or a loan? Some reach out to family, friends, or business partners, or they work with outside organizations that will grant funding based on your business plan. If you need help with a business plan, Small Business Development Center near you in Michigan offers free business consulting to help you create it to start up your business. Now, in addition, let's go back to that QR code. Once you enroll into our free engaged community, go to the directory. This is where you will get access to a list of funding partners and many other free resources that you might find helpful. So we're making great progress along our path to AFC success. So let's move along to step number 3, finding the property. You joined today because you wanted to be set up for success. So now here's one of those secrets I promised you. Finding the property is where many fail in the process of starting their AFC. Not all properties are good properties to license. We often find that individuals are super excited to get in the business and they desire to use their personal home to get started. Well, sometimes that works, but sometimes not so much. Ideally, the home should have at least 4 bedrooms, so there are options for private rooms. A ranch is ideal, or a 2-story with beds and bathrooms on both floors. For a single room, it must meet at least 80 square feet. And if you'd like to have 2 individuals in a room, that number is a minimum of 130 square feet. If the home has a private water and sewer system, the health department will come out and inspect and improve them before a license will be granted. Now, a 6-bed home in a residential district is considered residential use of a property and doesn't typically require special zoning or a special land use permit. But homes that have 7 or more residents do require special land use permit from the local planning commission or zoning board. If the home happens to be in a community with a homeowners association, although they can make your life really challenging, they cannot dictate whether or not a home can be licensed in their neighborhood. The Fair Housing Act will override HOA's rules that attempt to ban a home from coming in the neighborhood. So bottom line, location and the types of home matters. The home needs to be in an area where there is demand and that can draw individuals that can afford a rate of pay to keep the facility staffed properly and cover the expenses with some profit left over, and configured in a way to meet the residents' needs. So with that said, how do you go about finding a property? There are different options for you to consider. The first would be to find an existing property to rent or buy. Care Provider Solutions does work closely with experts to help find properties for AFC use and help determine if they're a good location and style. The next option is to find a previously licensed facility that is now closed. If you go to an AFC licensing lookup, you'll find in the link that you can choose closed facilities and pick the county that you're interested in. From that list, then you can do your Zillow search or whatever you prefer to see if the properties are for rent or for sale. And we'll put all these links that we're referencing in the comment section of the video. You also have an option to purchase an existing facility. Some people like the turnkey operation where you have the residents, furnishings, and staff already in place. Now, business brokers can help you find these locations who often list on Biz Buy Sell. And then, of course, your last option would be to build from ground up and make it exactly the way you want. Moving right along, we're continuing our journey to license an AFC and the steps you take. And you might wonder, are we there yet? The famous question the best of us have asked at least one time in our lives. My response is, you're close. If you haven't obtained your Articles of Incorporation and EIN number, this is the time to get it done, and then ask those final questions before you get started. Can you work the job while you're going through the licensing process? Yes, absolutely. How long will it take to get licensed? Well, our experience shows it can take anywhere from 2 to 6 months once the property's identified. If you're blocking off time on your calendar to get things done consistently, and you have a responsive state consultant, and you have a mentor like Care Provider Solutions that can guide you through the process so you keep on the path and avoid expensive and timely mistakes. Now, as we mentioned in one of the earlier steps, facilities for over 6 people, you do need to add time for zoning approval, the architectural drawing and Bureau of Fire approval, and for the buildings in rural areas, time for the inspection on the private water and sewer. So all of that would add time to that licensing process. So I mentioned we have secrets. Well, here's the next one. If you desire to serve the mentally ill and developmentally disabled populations, after you receive your license is when you can start the contracting process with those community of mental health agencies, if they're looking for new providers at that time. So you will need to plan on extra time to get contracts in place to serve those individuals if they're going to be from the community of mental health agencies. Once all of the steps are complete to this point, you're finally ready to start the licensing process and fill out the application. The application is for a general AFC, and that application and fee can be submitted online or filled in and sent through the mail. The state of Michigan requires a lot of documents and policies before the home is inspected. So you might guess what that number might be, but it ends up being about 21 for a small group home. That's a lot. And because we specialize our mentorship and consulting to Michigan providers, we walk right alongside you through the whole process and will provide you templates that meet the new licensing rules and coaching, what AI doesn't give you, the coaching to customize them to your own use. We make it easier for you. One of those policies is a resident refund policy. So you can scan the QR code on the screen if you would like to access it. This is one of them that we would help you modify as part of our 3-step startup process to get licensed. As part of our licensing startup program, as I mentioned, the templates include everything from the refund policy I mentioned, budgets, program statements, and all the other ones. We would provide assistance to customize them to your facility and the populations you will serve. Now, once these are submitted to the state and your fingerprinting is done, validating a clear background, the last step is an inspection of the home, and we would support you there as well. Now, for facilities who desire to specialize in providing care for the mentally ill and developmentally disabled, you will also include a specialized certification application with the policies you submit for approval. With that specialized certification, you have the ability to contract with the community and mental health agencies who are looking for new providers. And they would be the ones that would place individuals with developmental disabilities or mental illness into your home. Now, before we finish up with next steps, you might be intrigued about taking that first step. And you may wonder, what is Care Provider Solutions all about? And what do we do to support our clients' success? Well, I mentioned winging it doesn't work, but systems do. And we know how hard it is to work a job, start a business, and still run a household. It can feel overwhelming and frustrating. And our goal is to teach AFC owners what simple systems to put in place and what resources they can use to run their businesses better with less stress so they can provide better resident care. So, in addition to the new home startup that we've been talking about, we also offer courses on how to operate them well, a membership for ongoing support, and an annual conference. You might also be curious to know what someone else has gone through the process experienced and whether the support they received saved them the time and unnecessary effort that we talked about today. So I'm going to have you listen to one of our graduates, Michelle from Ada Grace Homes, and she now owns many others, about what she experienced with our organization.
Production. Hello, everyone. It's great to meet you all. So, like Nadine said, myself and my husband, our story is we were administrators for AFC Homes for a very long time. And we were intending to lease and purchase a home, and that didn't happen. But what I wanted to say is, to start by saying, is that we were officially licensed with our own home on April 17th. And 5 weeks, as of May 25th, Sunday, so about 5 weeks, we have 5 residents with the sixth committed and who's due to move in a few weeks. And why? Why has this happened? I think this has happened because we've used care provider solutions. So we started off, knowing that we had all this experience, we never did the actual licensing process. We never had to do it. And so at first, when I read a little bit about it, it just seemed so intimidating. And just a simple Google search I did really, and came across Care Provider Solutions, reached out to Nadine. I think it was back in October of last year. And after talking with her the first time, I realized the experience and the resources that her program was providing would be very beneficial, because at the time I was working full time, and in fact I'm still working, but I will probably will be soon, with the University of Michigan medical system. I lecture in the School of Information and also work in research in the medical school. And my husband was also working. He's working with the facility, and then he was working another job after. So we were both working. And so Care Provider Solutions was so helpful using this program, that they provided all the resources that we needed to get started, to send in the application. If we had any questions, we can reach out to them, and they would have all the answers, or if Nadine didn't have the answer right away, she would find it out and get back to us. Now the three-step process I really liked, because I believe when you have something that seems overwhelming, taking it in small bites is very helpful. So I saw the three-step process as that, just taking it in small bites. So the first step is just the preliminary, getting you started, you get your application in. And then the second step is getting all the documentation together. I would say that was perhaps the longest, it was the longest step, depending on how you budget your time. But one thing I would say, and I heard Nadine mention it, is that you have to be committed. Depending on if you want to do this right as quickly as possible, or if you don't mind stretching it out a little while, but you have to be committed to put in the time to do it. So it's Care Provider Solutions is supporting you, but you also have to put in your own time in making sure that you're getting the things that need to be done in a timely manner. For us, we wanted to get it done very quickly. And so for each step of the journey, we try to intentionally put in time each day, whether it's preparing a document or reviewing a document, or reading up on the resources that were made available. And then, so each step of the process, Care Provider Solutions is with you all the way. just guiding you. And for us, that was very, very helpful because there was so much, even with all the experience we had, there was so much we did not know about the licensing process that we learned. Now, my advice, as you consider if this is something that you want to do, my advice to you is using care provider solutions, make sure that you're using all the resources that they've provided to you because it's helpful not only in the startup of the home, but we're finding it helpful even as we continue our journey. Your goal is to open more homes. And so the resources and the benefits that they've provided to us will be helpful as we move forward. We are part of the Care Provider Solutions community, the member a core member group, which is something that you can do after you open your home. You can continue to be supported by them and other AFC operators who are part of that group as well. So we are finding that part to be very helpful, just the continuity process and long-term assistance in kind of monitoring your success and making sure that you're still successful. The other thing I would say is talking about the resources. How did we do this? I think being able to adjust to timelines. So Care Provider Solutions is not responsible for the consultant that is assigned to inspect your home and grant you your license. So unfortunately for us, we got a consultant that took a little longer time. So we submitted our documents in January and we didn't have our inspection until April. So that was a little bit of a long wait. But and that's not, obviously Care Provider Solutions is not in control of that. But what was very, very, very comforting for us is that we knew that when the inspector came in, because of the help of Nadine and her team, that we had everything in place. And so she came in, she did the inspection, and by that night, by the end of her inspection, she told us that we had passed the inspection and we had our license the very next day. So, and that was because Care Provider Solutions, Nadine came and she did a mock inspection before the actual inspection. She was there just like the licensed consultant, going through everything, pointing out anything that we might be missing, and having us corrected before we did the actual inspection. And so for me, that was very comforting. It helped us feel very confident the actual day of the inspection that we were ready. And so if you guys have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. We're just very excited and very grateful. And in fact, I'm glad Google pulled you up first, Nadine, when I checked for help with opening an AFC home. And you've been very instrumental. This course has been very instrumental in the success we've had. Production. And hello, everyone.
What a great story. Love hearing the success and we continue to celebrate with them as they continue to add homes. So let's go ahead and move on to the next steps. We've taken you on this journey to learn the pathway of success to license a facility of your own. And today we've operated as your GPS to take you on the quickest route to reach the destination of licensing a facility of your own, to teach you the easiest way to get to where you want to go so you don't waste time taking the wrong roads. So what's the next steps? We have 2 easy steps for you to follow. The first is to join our free community if you didn't do it earlier to get resources, downloads, tips, strategies, that directory I mentioned to operate your AFC well. Like GPS, this free community functions as the GPS update, where rerouting is provided to keep you on track. Things like policy changes, legal updates, topics to make your job easier, and of course, encouragement and celebrations. Scan the QR code to sign up for the free resources, contacts, and downloads. Lastly, you may be thinking having a mentor is a wise step to take, and you would be exactly right. Very often, what we found is that individuals who want to enter the space know someone that is in the space already. So they seek advice from these friends who are in and know the business. But what they find out is they're really busy and they don't have the time to guide them fast enough, or they might not know the new rules and guide them incorrectly. You can see there's lots of moving parts to license successfully. So if you desire additional direction, Care Provider Solutions is the preferred mentor in Michigan and can help you license quicker than if you were to do it on your own. We have had many people come to us after hiring other mentors that failed them and sought help and guidance specific to Michigan. Scan this QR code to answer a few questions. It will help us learn where you're at, help you set an action plan, and then get you to your goal the quickest. And this also applies to existing AFC operators who are considering opening another facility and want the accountability to move through the process quickly. Once you answer the questions, you'll be prompted to set a meeting to discuss next steps. There is no fee to this part. And we'll make sure we put that link in the chat or in the comment section as well. Our team will help you save wasted time figuring out this stuff on your own using the experience that we gained over 16 years combination of owning and operating our own homes and consulting in the AFC space specific to Michigan. And in addition, I'm on the AFC Licensing Council and member of the Community and Mental Health Association of Michigan. We look forward to helping you and support you in whichever way you see fit and to accomplish the goal for you to license your own facility in Michigan. I look forward to connecting with you and helping you accomplish what you want.